Hey everyone, welcome back to The Healed Trader. Today's episode is called What is Your Trauma? Now, we've had a little bit of a break. We started out with the series about money, careers, starting a business, all those sort of things. But now we're going to get a little bit deeper. And when we talk about trauma, we're not talking about this really dramatic abuse that you've undergone, or if you were in a war zone and you can't stop thinking about it, and you've got real psychological, traumatic, PTSD, that sort of thing. It's more about, in your upbringing, were there certain needs that you had that were not met, that then manifested into character traits that have kind of impacted your adult life? That's what we mean by trauma. And I didn't even know what this meant, really, a year or two ago. I thought I had an amazing upbringing. I had two loving parents. I thought my childhood was absolutely fine and there was absolutely nothing wrong with me. And it was only when I had various things that happened in my life that led me to question that and look inside and sort of learn a bit more about this stuff. I actually realized I had quite a few traumas. So that's what we're here to talk about today. I've got my friend Dave here to talk about it as well. And I'd love to know, is this something that you've kind of thought about a lot in your life? And if so, what have you discovered?
Yeah, I mean, it's something I think a hell of a lot about, actually. And I think when you talk about trauma, everyone thinks it needs to be like some massive event that happens. Mm-hmm. And obviously some people do have those really big, obvious traumatic events.
Yeah.
In some ways, not always, but in some ways they can be easier to deal with in terms of we know what's at the root of the problem of the trauma.
It's just so apparent.
Because it's so apparent. And then, we can seek help around it, and people would seek help around that. If you've got a trauma that is something, say, from childhood or something a lot more subtle, but yet you've got these issues, it's a lot harder to identify what caused it, and B, I think people are more hesitant, like, to go and say seek help around like those things. And for me, like, a lot of those traumas are the things that disturb us, and also negatively impact some of our behaviours and how we feel and the behaviours that we take around certain areas and aspects of our lives. And I kind of think of trauma. I don't know if have you heard of EFT, tapping, emotional freedom technique. And I've actually sort of been doing a course on this to become an EFT practitioner. And I say I've been doing it for a while now. I keep getting interrupted doing it. But the whole thing around EFT is that the kind of trauma that we have, it's not about an event itself. It's about the translation we put to that event, and then the energy disruption it causes in the body. So the two of us could walk out of here and see something, a horrific accident, and one of us might just go, oh, that was bad, and go and almost forget about it by the end of the day, and it's not disrupted the body's energy flow. Mm-hmm. The other one of us might just really disrupt that energy flow, and it will sit within our body and sit within our mind, and then we create this mind-body connection where we keep sort of retelling that story. And every time we kind of think about it or something reminds us of it, we kind of relive the trauma of that event, because the energy of it's within us. And EFT tapping is all about, I mean, I don't want to go too deep into it, but like the amygdala in the brain is like the fight or flight response center, right? And it goes, right, there's kind of danger here, and that feeling that I've got, that energy disruption is telling me like there's something I need to be afraid of or prepared for, fight or flight. Mm-hmm. And like the whole sort of tapping thing is to calm that down and let it know it's okay, and then B, it because you're tapping on these different meridian points throughout your body. It can help correct the energy disruption and realign the flow, if you like, through your body. So I kind of think of like trauma as being things that we've experienced that I think very energetically that kind of creates this energy disruption, and then the brain like attaches to that and continues to create these kind of neural networks around it that that kind of really impacts how we feel, how we think on certain areas, and that can obviously then impact us in many kind of negative ways as we go through our life in whatever area you felt that trauma.
Yeah, that's really interesting about the, that energy sort of disruption. I mean, the type of traumas I was thinking about are these more subtle ones that, like you said, they're not so in your face and obvious.
Yeah.
So things like rejection,
Yeah.
right? Things like abandonment, right? And I don't mean just being left on the street and your parents disappear.
Yeah.
It's more like a feeling of abandonment, right? Where you don't see your parents as much as you want to as a child, something like that, right? Because they're always working or whatever it may be. Some sort of humiliation, betrayal, injustice, things like where your voice is not heard, your opinion doesn't matter, you get shut down very quickly. So you start to think, I'm not worthy of an opinion. Like no one cares what I say. So if I ever have got feelings, I should just suppress them because they're not important. Those are the sort of traumas and the beliefs that kind of come from that. And I also think that sometimes these traumas get masked by positive outcomes in your life. So, for example, the obvious one that springs to mind is if you're a high achiever, right? Yeah. So let's say, you were really encouraged to work really hard and have amazing grades and get an amazing job, make loads of money, right? Something that a lot of people in finance especially will relate to, yeah? But, your entire self-esteem was connected to that. So if you weren't a high achiever, you weren't worthy. You weren't worthy of love, basically, right?
Yeah.
So then that core belief that gets embedded in your mind is, well, if I'm not achieving, then I'm not worthy of love. So then you can't switch off from work. You become a workaholic. You abandon things in your life that you shouldn't. Things that you should pay more attention to, you don't do. These are the type of ways it can manifest. And on paper, it's the reason you were a success, right? And we've talked about this in previous episodes that we did. Yeah. But that is actually a trauma that you have, right? In your upbringing that meant you were somewhat imbalanced. Like you were very skewed to one side, but you were not attending to your other needs, basically, right? The need to just play, the need to just enjoy life, right? The need to relax and have a nervous system that was not dysregulated, right? And that was calm, right? These are the sort of things. So these are the traumas that I'm kind of talking about. And I think people feel like they don't want to look back at their childhoods and blame their parents for something negative, because it's not necessarily, the parents didn't do that on purpose. Yeah. And it wasn't intentional, but the reason to do it isn't so that you can then go back and complain about it and bitch about it and be like, see, it's not my fault. The reason to investigate this and think about this is so that you can heal from it, right? Because this wound has stayed with you for 20, 30 years, however old you are. And it is something that's really hard to shake, right? Like I know for sure I'm a workaholic and it's fucking hard to let go, right? And actually the reason why we haven't put out a Heal Trader episode for like weeks is because I was purposely taking a break, right? I was feeling burnt out. We were making loads of episodes of whatever the hell we do. And I was just like, you know what? I think I need to just chill out a little bit. So again, I'm trying to learn and practice those things that I know I'm not naturally good at, which are slowing down and not being a workaholic. Right?
Yeah. It's funny as well, like, because as children, and all children are quite naturally narcissistic. So they translate everything that's going on in the world to be around them. So whether it's like a mum and dad arguing, like, that for them is something I've done. Like that's the way a child sees the world. And then, even like things that we don't even mean to do. Like, I mean, it's great to praise kids like for things that they're doing, but then, like again, for some, then it becomes that's where my self-worth is like I'm worthy when I'm achieving and doing good things, and that's where it comes back to a really subtle thing that someone's constantly chasing this ideal of success, which by the way there's nothing wrong with that at all, but it's when it's done in a way of like you're doing it with a sense that somehow like it's going to validate you, and you're doing it from a point of sort of trauma and stress.
It's the outcome. If it's the outcome that makes you worthy rather than the process. Yeah. You know how we say as parents, you've got to praise the process, not the outcome. Yeah. If the process is right and people are trying their best, and you know they're doing all the right things, the outcome's irrelevant, right?
Yeah.
And I think, you know, it's, you forget, like I definitely forget, right? And you say good girl, good boy, or whatever, and to your kids, and then they attach them being good to certain types of behavior.
Yeah.
Right. You know, and it's really hard to catch yourself doing that.
Yeah.
And always remember, praise the process, not the outcome.
Yeah. 100%. And I think like you've asked me like where my trauma sort of lie, and I think you kind of know in terms of just like how certain things trigger you and how you feel around certain things, and differs for every person, and then it's kind of trying to think like, why do I feel that way, like spending time to actually, you know, sit back and go, hang on, this feeling's a bit strange, like why do I feel anxious around this certain, you know, area of my life, and then try and think what is it around that and what within that needs healing. I guess going back to like EFT tapping, not to keep promoting that, but it's a way of, because you might not always know what caused it, but it's a way of actually releasing that and correcting that energy like disruption. But either way, be it through that or meditation, just like allowing yourself to feel like the pain of that trauma.
That tapping thing, that's a way of coping when you feel yourself getting triggered, I imagine, right?
Yeah, because the tapping it calms the amygdala down in your brain. So as soon as that's right again, because the amygdala starts going, right, this feeling, this is danger. There's danger around the corner, but there's not danger. It's like it's because I'm fear. You know, I'm not feeling worthy enough. I've got all this anxiety.
It's a coping mechanism rather than, it doesn't heal the root cause.
No, but it does. Yeah, because it helps release it, and the idea it should. So it's weird because I've never had one of these amazing, like some people have amazing experiences where they've got a phobia of spiders or something, and they, you know, real phobia, and they do tap in and immediately it's gone, and next thing they're holding a tarantula and like, oh my God, it just doesn't bother me anymore. It used to really bother me, and now I've been going through the tapping process and it doesn't bother me anymore. I've never had that immediate like wow breakthrough moment of oh my God, this thing really works. I've had it in that there's again, like what I try and do whenever, and you can do it like through meditation. I don't know if we spoke about this before when we've had these conversations, but there's a great book called The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer.
Yeah, I've mentioned that book.
Yeah, and like it's one of my favorite kind of books. But he talks about, and I guess like he's referring to like this sort of trauma and like holding this trauma in your body, and he talks about, when we start to feel that, like typically what we do is we try and rationalize it away in our minds. So like, you know, whether say we got a fear around money, say a fear around money or fear around failure, right? It's quite an obvious one. And we feel that energy and that stress in the body come up, and then we kind of get stressed, but then our minds then work to kind of essentially push it back down, like in the body. And
a way of avoiding it.
Yeah, avoid and rationalize it away. Right, and it's kind of pushing it down, but it's still in there, and all you're doing when you're doing that is trying to get to a place where you can feel comfortable with it, right? And you kind of try and rationalize something that's quite irrational away. And he talks about it, he compares it to having a thorn in your arm. So it's like you got a thorn in your arm, right? And it's starting to get infected. So what you do is, like, you know the thorn's there, and then you put some cream on it and you bandage it up, and eventually get to the point where it feels all right now, it's fine, and you forget about it for a bit, and then you walk past the table and you catch your arm on it, and then you realise, it's really sore still, and then you maybe like put a new dressing on it, and then you get comfort on it. And he's like, instead of keep trying to do that, as soon as you feel it, just take the thorn out. And it's kind of that idea about when you feel that, don't try and suppress it. Allow yourself to feel it. Release it. Now, how do you release it? So Michael Singer will say, you know, just allow yourself to feel it, meditate with it. Don't be rationalize it, just feel it and breathe through it, and just keep breathing and kind of through that. And then again, that's probably a similar way of like just calming your body around it, and then you start to let it go. Or tapping is in my mind another way. But what I've noticed is then when I've given myself the time to, like, this is how I'm feeling this way about something, like just take like a few minutes to allow yourself to feel it. What I've noticed, there's certain things in my life that used to really like trigger me all of a sudden I realised, oh, that's not a thing for me anymore. Like, and then you go, oh my God, I've come that far. Like, it's not a thing. Like mine was definitely around money, and security around money. Lived in fear when I was in a bank, lived in fear of losing my job, and how am I going to provide for my family, and how am I going to replace that level of income, constantly. And I always remember it. And it's about like knowing where this that you hold this trauma. Someone could come back to me and say, oh, did you hear someone in a completely different department has been made redundant, like lost their job? And I'd feel that knot in my stomach. It's nothing to even do with me, but it triggers somewhere. The amygdala in the brain's going, danger, danger. And whatever underlies that, you know, is like all that stuff. Now I know, well, the fact that I was able to kind of transition my career, work in our tech startup, start some of my own businesses and all this stuff, live in a much more uncertain world financially and everything. We're in crypto, you know, how volatile do you want that to be? And now those things just don't trigger me in the same way. I wouldn't say I'm completely dealt with it. There's still elements of that, still a little bit of the trauma to deal with. Is
we're never really fully healed. Yeah. It's an ongoing journey, right, of healing. But okay, let me ask you one more thing then before we sign off on this one. What about the inner child stuff? So yes, you can release the feelings that come up for you, but these ingrained beliefs like this fear of failure or this feeling of not being worthy or good enough, or whatever it is, okay? Have you tried to go deep to that child that at the time where those beliefs were kind of being cemented, and kind of almost reparent that inner child? Have you been down that road? Because I know you go deep into meditation.
Yeah.
And is that some of the work that you've done?
Yeah, 100%. I've done a lot of that work through meditation and through guided meditations to kind of heal that part of me, and almost sort of like tell that part of you that it's all right. So you are loved. How does that work? Do you
visualize yourself speaking to your child self?
Yeah. It's hard to explain, really,
because that's what it was for me. Like I actually pictured, I think, a 7-year-old version of myself, and I literally was staring at him, and I was like, "What do I say to him?" Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's one way, and then for me, it's just knowing. I think we all know if we quiet our minds enough and quiet the egoic minds enough, we know where the vulnerable parts of us are that are vulnerable and kind of just need almost like reassurance. And it's so I don't visualize it so much as like a younger me that I'm going to, but I kind of visit that part of me that needs reassurance to kind of tell it it's okay, you're enough, you know, you're loved and all that stuff. So I think that's one element. I think the other thing as well is because sometimes, well, you don't know like where these things come from. A thing that I've kind of like to say almost as a mantra, I guess, but in meditation is like, you know, like, because often these things are there to trying to protect us from something, even though there's nothing to protect us from. And it's like just saying that whatever part of me is trying to protect me, like thank you, but I no longer need you. Like whatever is in me that's trying to protect me, like thank you, I no longer need you. But like, don't beat yourself up around it. Just be like, just thank whatever part of that inside of you that was trying to protect you, and allow yourself to let it go. I don't need that anymore. I don't need that protection anymore.
That's interesting.
And then the other thing for me is then also a forgiveness, and again through meditation, like forgiving the situation, the person, the people that have caused that trauma. Like forgive them and let that go. Because I think a lot of people are kind of holding on to this, like, and they probably know in their subconscious that it was from a mum and dad, or it was from this situation, or it's from that job, and that they're still holding on to that anger, and it's like forgive it, and almost thank it for like the lesson, and then let it go, and there's such freedom in that. And I think you can start to let go some of this trauma once you can forgive yourself and forgive the people and the situations around it.
Good stuff, man. I like it. All right. We're going to call it a day for this one. So, like I said, this is kind of a new series we're doing talking about this sort of stuff. I've got a special episode coming up next week that you'll like. It's interviewing a friend of mine who is going to open up about some quite traumatic experiences that he had. But hopefully you enjoyed this one, and you know, there's something in it that you could take away and learn from, and we'd love to hear your comments about that, and you know what your thoughts are about these topics. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.